130 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams. We're going conference by conference, starting with the SEC, doing it power ranking style. And next up are the Missouri Tigers. So the Missouri Tigers, a team that's been pretty accustomed to making bowl games over the past couple of seasons. However, there's a lot of talent leaving this Missouri team, and we'll look at that here in a little bit. But can this Missouri team find their way back into a bowl game yet again in 2022, or will this be a year where Missouri is not as good and maybe even miss bowl season? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel, and yes, I'm predicting all 131 teams, and that includes your favorite team. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded. And also, I'm stressing this really this year, especially going out to Missouri fans in this case. You guys are going to know your teams a lot better than me. So Missouri fans, if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something to the video, leave it in the comment section down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Let's talk about Missouri, right? Well, they're the 13th ranked team in the SEC, in my opinion. What did Missouri do last year? So Missouri, I don't know what happened there, but Missouri, 6-7 last year, 3-5 in the conference. Of course, went to bowl season, I believe, lost their bowl game. Of course, that's how they ended up at 6-7. And this Missouri team last year offensively wasn't bad. 414 yards a game, along with, I believe, here it is, around 29 points per game. So a pretty solid offense for Missouri, middle of the road. But it was the defense that really held this team back. 445 yards allowed. That's the second worst in the SEC last year, only ahead of Vanderbilt, and allowed 35 points per game. Again, the second worst mark in the SEC, and that's the second worst mark by a long stretch. I believe the next worst in the SEC was around 28, 27. So Missouri clearly has work to do on the defensive end of things. In order to kind of get better and move this program forward. But they're also losing some key pieces on the offensive end. They're losing key pieces on the defensive end, but they're also losing some key pieces on the offensive end that you got a little sneak peek of, but you're going to get to see the full thing now. Of course, under head coach Eli Drinkwitz, and again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce any names in this video, quarterback Connor Bazelak is gone. He was, of course, that starting quarterback last year for Missouri. Last year, 2,548 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions is gone off this team. So they're going to have to find a way to replace him, move a quarterback up there. But the biggest loss on the offensive end is running back Tyler Beatty. Was good for over 1,600 yards last year, was one of the leading rushers in the country. And he is a guy that is not going to be on this football team anymore. He'll be lighting it up in the NFL. A couple key wide receivers gone as well. Kike Chisholm. And Javion J.J. Hester gone as well. Chisholm good for 511 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hester good for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. You also lose Daniel Parker, who could have been a bigger piece in this offense. Did have 3 touchdowns last year, but he has since transferred off this team. But a lot of defensive talent leaving this team. I think one of the more underrated pass rushers in the nation, Mekhi Wingo, has transferred out, along with a couple other losses on the defensive line. Your leading tackler, Blaze Aldridge, is gone. Had 89 tackles last year. That was 12 more than anyone else on the team. And their defensive backs gone as well, especially a guy as good as Jalen Carlies, 67 tackles and 4 interceptions last year for Carlies, as well as guys like Evans, Green, Robinson, all gone off the defensive back position. And they were all pretty solid in their own end. But we got to look at what Missouri's got now, because all that is gone, and there's no getting it back. Missouri, what do they have now? Well, that starting quarterback battle is going to be between Brady Cook and Tyler Macon. Brady Cook had 345 yards last year. Macon had 143. So kind of pick your poison there. Neither guy really had much experience last year, so it'll be interesting to see who Missouri goes with. In terms of running backs, well, of course, you lose Tyler Beatty, but you get Nathaniel Pete, a transfer over from Stanford. I think he could be good in a Missouri uniform. You also got Dove, Burden, Bannister, Cooper. Dove was that leading receiver last year with 576 yards. So you get him back along with some other some pretty good wide receivers. And a transfer tight end from Buffalo, I believe, Tyler Stevens. And I talked about losing Mekhi Wingo and his pass rush ability. Well, they got someone in from the transfer portal to help replace that. Jaden Jernigan, along with guys like Jeffcoat and McGuire, could be pretty good for this Missouri team. A big check mark there. A very good pickup from the transfer portal. Linebacker Tyron Hopper, I believe, over from Florida, as well as Chad Bailey. He was a leading tackler last year. And then guys like Chris Abrams-Drain and Martez Manuel, an NFL prospect, are going to be back there defending passes. So could still be a pretty interesting season here for Missouri. They still have good talent on this team. But of course, they're losing a lot last year, and a lot of guys going to need to step up in some big ways. Defense has got to improve, and quarterback play is a big question mark. You don't know what you're going to get from there. Taking a look at this Missouri schedule, it goes like this. Louisiana Tech at home on a Thursday to open up. Then you have on the road against Kansas State, Abilene Christian. Then you get in the SEC play with road games against Auburn, Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee, and home games against Georgia, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and, of course, the Friday game against Arkansas. This is, again, a really hard schedule for this Missouri team. You avoid playing Alabama from the other division, which is good. Of course, you have the yearly game with Arkansas. And you also draw Auburn from the other division on the road, which is a really tough task as well. Auburn, Jordan-Hare, one of the toughest places to play in the country. And like Vanderbilt, that you guys that watched that Vanderbilt video earlier today saw, well, there's a really tough road game, or there's a really tough non-conference game on the schedule for Missouri, and they have to go on the road to play it. It's on the road against Kansas State. Kansas State has picked up some really nice pieces in the portal, and they have some really nice pieces coming back. That's going to be a very hard game for Missouri to win. And speaking of hard games to win, let's find out what games are going to be hard for Missouri to win. As you saw with the last video, or if you didn't, I'm not doing game by game this year. Instead, I'm doing a more percentage-based approach to my record predictions this year. If games are in the red, you're probably not going to win those games. If games are in the orange, you're still probably not going to win. You're probably still going to be huge underdogs, but it's college football. Hey, an upset could happen. Yellow are your 50-50/upset potential games. Yellow-green are games that you're probably going to win, but an upset could happen. And then your games in green are, yeah, you're going to end up winning these games. So you see 3 games in green. That's Louisiana Tech, Abilene Christian, New Mexico State. Don't really see how they lose any of those games. So there's already 3 wins for Missouri right there. You're halfway to bowl eligibility. And then a pretty likely win there at home against Vanderbilt should push them to 4-0 in just those 4 games. And it's going to be really important that they go 4-0 in the 4 games, because winning 2 games for the rest of the schedule is not an easy task at all. I only have 1 game in yellow for this Missouri team. That's the road game against South Carolina. And you very well could even put that game in the orange with the way that South Carolina recruited in the transfer portal this year, with the talent that they have coming back as well. That game could very well be in the orange. So that's kind of the only game I can see Missouri possibly pulling out in SEC play. Maybe they pull off an upset at home against Kentucky or Arkansas. Maybe they go on the road in the swamp and beat Florida. It's college football again, on the road against Tennessee. But there are a lot of hard games on the schedule for Missouri, and the way that the SEC is going to play this year, Missouri has got to drastically improve that defense, and they have to get good enough quarterback play, probably as good if not better than Connor Bazelak, in order to really drive forward a good campaign this year. But let's talk about that road game against Kansas State for a little bit. It's going to be one of the more interesting non-conference games that people aren't going to pay a lot of attention to, because, of course, you got the Ohio State Notre Dames, the Georgia Oregons, the Alabama Texases of the world, right? You got those big, even Cincinnati, Arkansas, Missouri's rival, has one, their rival along the battle line. But for this Missouri team, I mean, you get games at home that you'd want to have at home, like Georgia, Kentucky, Arkansas, but in my opinion, there are more favorable games to have at home. Like if that Auburn game was at home, that might be another game in the yellow for Missouri. If that Florida game was at home, same thing, but that game is in the orange. And those are 2 very tough environments to play in. So this is going to be a very hard schedule for Missouri to traverse, because they have home games against some very good teams, and they have road games against teams that might not be as good as they have been in previous seasons, but they're really tough places to play. Rocky Top, the Swamp, Jordan-Hare, even on the road at Kansas State is going to be a hard place to play. So this Missouri team, I think it's going to be really hard for them to win 6 games. I just don't think they get there. I got the Missouri Tigers going 5-7 this year, so 1 win away, or 1 win shy of bowl eligibility. I think they can get there. I think the floor is 4-8. Again, I don't see them. I see them going 4-0 in the games that are highlighted in green. But 8-4, I see as that high. Look, if Missouri can put things together, there's a lot of talent on this defense. There's a lot of talent on this offense. If their defense can improve and their quarterback play can get better, I can see this Missouri team winning 8 games. More realistically, I can see this team winning 7 games, but I think 8 games is the absolute high for this Missouri Tigers team. So there you go, Tigers fans. Probably not what you wanted to hear, but I do have the Missouri Tigers going 5-7 in 2022. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like on this video, subscribe, ring the bell again, so you know when your favorite team gets updated. But most important of all, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys in the next one. Goodbye.